Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Rockwood. This is their part number 322. This is shown in the 32D finish. Stainless steel is what that means. It means that this is made of solid stainless and a brushed finish. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Here's what one looks like removed from the packaging. It's a nice, smart, petite, elegant latch protector. I think it does a really great job at protecting the seam between the edge of the door and the jamb, where you might otherwise attempt to Lloyd the latch bolt, and do so in such a way that it's effective. I mean, this height is 6 inch. If it was 10 inch or 18 inch, if there was no additional latch that it was covering, why would you need all that extra length? The height is nice and petite. You don't need extra hardware on there. I like it because it's small. It has a small footprint, and it's relatively inconspicuous, so you don't end up seeing a lot of this. You'll notice you have to study this a little bit closer. Study the door when one of these are installed to notice it, rather than a 12-inch tall latch guard that'll be twice the height. So the 322 is a smart little doodad. It's made of stainless. Completely non-magnetic. It's in a brushed finish. That confluence of the base material and the finish, the brushing really, constitutes the most durable of all finishes. We call this a natural finish. If a customer says, I want the one that won't rust, or I want the one that's going to look the best in 5 years, or I want the one that's going to be, the best for outside, it would be a stainless base material in a brushed finish. That's exactly what this is. There is a coffee shop down the road from the shop here, and they have their back door where they take deliveries, and they have exactly a 322 installed on it. And you don't ever notice it unless you're looking at it, and you kind of have to be a door person, I think, at that point to notice it. The overall height, 6 inch. Overall width, about 1.5 inches. Okay. This is exactly the type that's going to mount to the face of the door. This raised area here is going to allow the lip of the strike to project into, and this will close and cover that lip. The lip should only project a small amount. And see if we can give you an idea of what that accommodation is made for the strike. It's going to be a guesstimation to a certain extent. I'd say that you have about every bit of 3/16 in there, from what would be the face of the door to the inside area here. So if your strike is not projecting out a substantial amount, this is probably, if it's projecting out a very small amount, about 3/16, you're certainly going to be in the neighborhood of something that's going to work. My opinion is that your strike is going to hit the back side of this if it's a typical strike, because of that 3/16, let's say 190 thousandths basically, you have your door that's inset in the frame. The door is already moved in about 90 thousandths. So this won't tolerate a lot of lip hanging out of the from the face of the frame. So you might have to modify that ever so slightly, or order a strike with a shorter lip length so that you can use this latch protector in your application. What is your application? Let's talk about it now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Where will you use this? I think you're going to use this in an area where it's possible that you'll have Lloyding of the latch, L-O-I-D-I-N-G. That's the technical term, the locksmithing industry term for jimmying, putting in a credit card, a butter knife, pushing the latch back. A latch guard is intended to thwart that sort of attack. I would say that this would be appropriate when you have an area that is relatively low risk for that, but it's present, but you don't need to go to extreme measures to thwart that attack with either a larger latch guard, which means it will have a greater projection. Not only it will be taller and wider, but it will have a deeper recessed cavity for the lip of the strike. That's number one. Is available with an anti-spread pin, meaning there would be a pin that would be riveted, not riveted, but welded to the back side of the portion that makes contact with the frame, meaning when the door closes, that pin is going to stick into a hole that you've drilled in the frame, preventing spreading of the door and frame, just to get the door out so the latch will come out of its hole and then the door will open. Or in an extreme situation, you would take an offset astragal, a piece of steel that's basically bent like this, the entire height of the door, like a 7-foot, an 8-foot, whatever it might be, and that's either screwed or welded to the face of the door. It's a continual latch guard. So depending on where you are in terms of the threat level, this might work out great. The coffee shop down the street, obviously someone probably tried to Lloyd that latch, but once they put this on, I would imagine that that threat went away, basically permanently. So that's where I think you would use this. You'll also use these on office doors, an interior door where someone is Lloyding the latch to get in. You don't want people going into your office. Someone's doing it. There you go. Residential, too, I think. I think this would be appropriate for residential applications. You might have, in Chicago, you've got a 2-flat building. You go in one door, and then here's the one door to go to the first, the main floor or the garden below. And then you've got this door that will then take you upstairs to the unit up top. Probably not a garden in that scenario. Just first floor that may have a basement, and then a second floor. So, a little application like that where the threat exists theoretically, but may not actually exist. So that's where I think I would end up using this. Okay, let's switch to the screen view. Oh, sorry. Well, you know what? Let's switch to the screen view, then we'll come back and talk about the installation. Let's do that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Here's the item that we are looking at. Let's take a look at some photographs that we have linked to down below. There's the box, the guard in its packaging, the guard itself, additional views on the item. That's the underside. That's your bolt package. Carriage bolts, through bolts, really. Or sex bolts is what they are, but that is a carriage bolt that's there. Can't really see it, but it's a square head. Okay, let's take a look now at the extended description of the item. We'll scroll down, take a look. 1.5 by 6, lock type cylindrical. Sure, you can use this for cylindrical latches. You can also use it for a mortise lock. Be no reason that you couldn't use it for a mortise lock. I think what they're saying is that 1.5 is narrow enough to the point where you won't necessarily have a conflict That's the frame. Sorry that's so awful. Let's just get rid of that. We really don't need it anyway. Okay, so you've got a petite little latch guard there. Well, your rows from a cylindrical lock, you want to make sure that that is not going to run into your latch guard. Okay, now if you have a really large diameter, you'll have latch guards that will have this sort of scalloped preparation in them because they're greater than 1.5 wide. If you have a mortise lock, you probably won't have that sort of problem, although you could. You have to be mindful of that. You have to be mindful of what's the back set from the edge of the door to the center of the hole. Okay, and one dimension I didn't give you is what is the amount of the flat area that's here, which I'll give you so you know how much encroachment onto the face of the door you'll have to contend with. If you have a mortise lock with escutcheon trim, this would probably work out really well for it as well. Material is 0.105 thick with 1/4-20 carriage bolts and hex drive sex nuts. They're completely non-handed. You can flip that over. Let's look at the template first. Technical drawing of what the item is. All of the dimensions beyond what I've provided, and actually they provide that dimension that I want you to know. It's 13/16. So from the edge of the door, you can count on 13/16 of it being consumed by by the width of the latch guard. Okay, and I would probably run that dimension hard to the edge of the door so that the 1/8 of an inch that was in here, you had that relief that was happening here. Though I would check that first. You might need to hold it back a small amount because you want to make sure that the distance from here, yeah, 3/16. That's what we, that's basically what we measured, 3/16. From here to where your frame is going to start is adequate given the inset of the door. Your door could have some inset. And then inset, just to beleaguer that point, here's your door. The inset is the dimension from the face of the frame to the face of the door, that dimension. You may have 0 inset. It could be 0. And it's very likely that there's an inset as well. So that's why that's offset. Okay, so technical drawing. There's also a document here called product brochure, which we can take a look at as well. A variety of latch protectors are here. These larger units that we discussed, this one has the anti-pry, anti-spread jam pin. That's here, as do their other series. And you'll note that how wide or the greater diameter of that preparation is based on how wide or what the diameter is of the rows of the lock that you're putting there. Or exit, no, well, probably not exit device trim. It could be an exit device trim if it was a mortise style. A rim exit, surface vertical rod, I don't, people want latch guards for rim exit devices. You can't get to that latch. So I've always kind of wondered about that, why someone would want that. 321 is basically the same as the 322, except it's 10-inch tall. We see those occasionally. There's the more petite 322. I also like this cast latch protector because, while it's certainly more money, it's made of solid brass, which means you can get a nice architectural finish out of that. If you wanted polished chrome, you could have that. Antique nickel, you could have that. Black suede powder coat, they can do that as well. Anti-vandal latch protector here, the 330. Your cylindrical lock would mount through that hole. By the way, we call that a turtle prep. This is for a cylindrical lock that requires through bolts at 12 and 6, 130 and 730, whatever. You see my point. Okay, this probably will work with every grade 1 or grade 2 lock there is. Probably isn't one that won't work there. Now, let's take a look. Also below this video, we have a couple of alternative suggestions, just there for additional information. There is a link below this video, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page in the website, and when we click on that link, we'll be able to get the manufacturer's page to load in our site. And from that page in our site, you'd be able to review not only all of the Rockwood products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website down here. Also a link to the full-line product catalog and other encyclopedic documents, such as an older version of their catalog. There is a mounting kit parts master table. That's interesting if you have Rockwood poles and you're looking for replacement bolts and bolt packages for that. This would be the document to review. That SP1004 is extremely common. The SP1025 is probably the most common bolt we sell for back-to-back mounts. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, wrapping up the video, we'll simply start with a quick analysis of how to go about installing this. I said it was 13/16 to that area where it flattens out. Yeah, I'd say that'd be about right. What you're going to do is you're going to certainly place this centered over where the strike plate is going to come out. You'd center that. You're going to want to place that on the door and make sure that where you have it positioned on the door, you have a small amount of breathing room between the face of the frame and where you have this installed in relationship to this offset. You don't want to install this too far over so it's covering too much of the jamb and then you're pushing the door closed or having to file the hole of the strike out a little bit. You don't want to do that. So you might bias it a little bit towards the hinge side of the door slightly so that you've got that offset right in this area here. Okay, you want the door to still operate freely. Get that on the door and mark your 2 holes. You want to go so far as to, and I would suggest it, put a torpedo level on the side and make sure it's completely plumb or completely vertical. Then I would mark those holes. I would drill a couple of holes. You know, I'm not an advocate of drilling all the way through the door because you're never going to really drill it straight. If you have the opportunity to lay that door flat and use a drill press, then I would suggest going all the way through. I would be marking the holes from either side of the door and drilling halfway through the door, obviously. Those carriage bolts are important. They have a square profile to the underside of the head to work with that square prep in the latch guard that prevents that bolt from being turned. And then obviously, so that's the male part. You've got the female part here that's governed with an Allen wrench. Right on. That's through bolted. Now, there's a feature about that female portion that's not quite obvious. And what that is the very thin head nature of the bolt. You will likely have this, you will certainly have this installed so close to the edge of the door. Now, in your mind's eye, imagine the door closing into the frame. This is the rabbet of the frame, the palm of my hand. My thumb represents the face of the stop. The door closes and basically hits the stop. Okay, because that latch guard is going to be so close to the edge of the door that the inside portion of the bolt is going to come and make contact with the face of the stop. If that wasn't an extremely thin head, you'd never be able to pull the door closed because that head of the bolt is going to be hitting the face of the stop. So that's why it's very small like that. Okay, not a standard feature on most people's latch protectors. The narrow nature of this one requires that it be a very thin head on there. Okay, the name Rockwood is synonymous with exceptional lots of things. In no particular order, and I'm sure I'll forget something: exceptional customer service, technical support, fit and finish, quality, confluence of value, reliability, utility, prompt, reliable, predictable shipping lead times. They're a really, they're a 330 career lifetime batter when it comes to excellence. You can depend on Rockwood. They're good quality people that, in fact, are very well trained as in addition to just being very agreeable to work with. I rarely get past customer service. When you call there, you can have customer service, and I don't even think there's a prompt for technical support because in my experience, when I call there for tech support, rarely am I transferred to someone else. Those customer service people are that well trained. Any questions on the 322 by Rockwood or any other Rockwood product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.